Welcome to Gula Jewish Film Festival, first session. We are here with Yulia and Andreas.
We really wanted to let our viewers have a chance to meet you guys, to get to know a little bit behind the scenes, behind your films. Ladies first, so we'll start with you, Yulia. First of all, I see already that the background of your Zoom meeting really ties into your film. For those of us who watched or are going to see the film with the concept of the eyes, can you, Yulia, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what your film is about?
Sure. So I currently live in Austin, Texas, and I am an artist, and I make animations, installations, performances, all kinds of things. And Gefilte Fish was actually my first narrative animation, and I did it, most of it, while I was in Vienna, Austria, actually, on a Fulbright. And originally, I was going to make a film about Friedel Dicker-Brandeis, who was a Viennese artist that perished in Auschwitz. But as I was working on the animation, my father passed away, and he was from Ukraine, Ukrainian Jew. And so I started thinking about what happened to my family, to his family. He and his mother and his brother are the only survivors from the family during that time. And so this story sort of came about. And in it, I think about how trauma that's not addressed causes other forms of trauma, and sort of this intergenerational trauma that happens as a result of, in my father's case, Holocaust by bullets, that is called. And that's basically how this film came about. There was quite a bit of research I had to do, because I grew up in Soviet Union and we never talked about Holocaust, and a lot of things that I was reading about, and my family never talked about it, and to realize how when trauma is so deep, it's hard for people to talk about things, and also of course, anti-Semitism didn't help. So yeah, I learned the story from my grandmother. And so, one thing led to another. And, I started making connection between what happened to my father and my own experience. And I lived in the Bronx with my family for many years. And so just, sort of combining all of these different elements. And as a result, also realizing, some of my father's kind of personality traits and actions and inactions, in terms of what happened in our family, and sort of an ability to face some of the traumatic kind of experiences within the family itself.
It's very nice. Watching your film, I always said to myself, it's amazing how she took the Gefilte fish concept and used it as, like fish are always silent. If you tell a baby, like, what does the fish say? That it's a joke. People do it. Like the fish doesn't say anything. So I really, really like the theme of the fish in your film. But another theme in your film that's very strong is the theme of the eyes, which I was referring to earlier, which is also in your background. Can you elaborate a little bit more about why you chose the eye as an iconic visual theme in your film?
Well, eyes are always prevalent in my work, and it's, eyes is kind of, it's as witness, right, as seeing what's going on, but also kind of seeing but not able to speak, because silence is also another part that that is in my animation. And in some way, you're talking about fish, and gefilte fish, right? It's kind of the stuffed fish. It's like it's a meal, but it also could be this experience of also not being able to talk. And I wanted to put a face to Holocaust, actually. And I was in Vienna in the aquarium that was built in one of the structures that the World War II structures. I can't remember the name for it, but it's just made out of this concrete for people to hide in. And I was, in one of them, and they turned the space into the aquarium. And I was thinking how this is made by prisoners of war, by Jews that died while making it. And here we are looking at this fish and all different aquatic life that can't talk and probably doesn't want to be there either. And we're just watching around, like being entertained. And there was one fish that looked as if it was talking. It was very expressive. And I was with my children actually, and they called me like, look, there's this new fish, she's talking. And so this is the fish that became the fish that's in my animation. Wow. Yeah, and I was thinking, here's this fish and it's probably screaming, and this kind of the scream of the fish is what I think when Holocaust, the scream that nobody hears.
Wow. I have to share a little bit of my personal experience when watching your film. The frame that grabbed me the most, Andreas, I don't know if you watched Julia's film, but the frame that grabbed me the most was there was a point where you were describing the horrors that happened during World War II, during the Holocaust, and that people had to bury their brothers. So there was a lot of people buried under the ground, and the ground was moving.
Yeah.
And you kind of tied that in visually. Can you tell us a little bit about your process, how you take some sort of concept and you bring it into visualization in your drawings?
Well, I mean, this is the story that my grandmother told me, and that's what I've read, from the, the memoir, not memoirs, but, the witness sort of recordings, how, there was just, it was obviously like all of it was horrific. But one of the things that my grandmother told me was how the children were pushed into the ground, because they were not considered worthy enough to be, like wasted on, bullets.
Right.
And then the earth kept moving, after they covered it for days. And this is, it's like the worst nightmare, right? To be buried alive.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's what, that what was done. And yeah, I mean, that's, of all the things that I read, and, there's just, one horrific thing after the next. This one is what, that's the one that actually my grandmother told me. And so that's the one I wanted to use. And, to kind of show the earth moving without needing to show what actually happens. But we can all imagine what happens underneath. So I think that's kind of the power of the animation, is that, I can make the earth move and, show the, drawings of the children, and then, we can make connections in the mind of everything else.
It's really powerful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Andreas, moving on to you, another Holocaust-themed film. So, Andreas, we would love to, first of all, hear a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what your film is about.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be part of this festival. So I'm living in the south of Germany right now, and I studied there. And like the film that I have in the festival is called Nakam, and it was kind of my thesis project at the film school, but a topic that I was doing research on and had in mind a long time ago. And it tells the story of a young Ukrainian Jewish partisan who was part of a partisan movement and fought against the Germans and the German occupiers. And he eventually played in a restaurant for Nazi soldiers, but nobody knew that he was smuggling like explosives into that restaurant. And the story we wanted to tell is that on the one hand, he wanted to revenge the murder on his family, and on the other hand, he would have to sacrifice his only friend in the restaurant, the pianist he's playing with. And we kind of started working and researching on that story and on what was still there on the true events, like what was kind of brought by a partisan leader to the common knowledge. And that's like how we continued on working on it for several years, actually, until we finally started making it. Yeah.
Wow. I have to say that while watching your film, the main question that was always in the back of my mind was, how did you find a young actor that was so talented? I mean, it seemed like the work that you had with that actor was amazing. The chemistry was great, and he really pulled it off. Like, every second of the film was believable, was authentic. Can you share us a little bit about the process that you had working with the young actors?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. That was great to actually find him, because we had to find somebody who would play the violin, who would speak several languages and everything, and that was quite challenging, and I didn't believe that it would work. And then I found like this young boy that I had met on a film set before, but years before, and he always was on my mind. And because I also was observing him with his family a little bit on that set, and thought it was very interesting how he was like talking to his brother and everything. And then I asked him again to come to the casting and everything, and then he said like, okay, I'm not playing the violin, but I really want to make it and do it. And I found it very interesting because he came all on his own, like in a huge city like Berlin, to the casting, and also like showed a lot of effort and knew a lot about history, which was of course extremely important for this role. And then we kind of at some point said, okay, let's do this together, but you have to learn how to play the violin. I myself played it for some years and know how hard it is, and thought it's never gonna happen actually. but then he took the effort and spent, I think, 2.5 months with a teacher.
Wow.
Who he was going to like once or twice a week and try to start learning playback violin, if you could call it like that. And that was still quite challenging, but because also on set, when he like technically had to perform the scene but also play the instrument and act and everything, so there was a lot to handle at the same time for him. But I think he took so much effort, and he really deserves a lot of
really does
about his play.
Really does. It was great. It was really great. And since you mentioned the music piece, I would like to talk about that as well. So you said you're a violin player, which is very interesting. Nice to know. How did you select the music that was going to be played in the film, and why specifically that music?
Yeah, so we, with Ega Ategislioglu, the composer of the film, we started to talk a lot about Ukrainian folk music, and had some friends here in Stuttgart, but also in his kind of circle, where who were all like Ukrainian musicians, and some even had done research on folk music and everything, and that's how we started to listen to it, to understand what it would sound like. And then Ega decided to like compose pieces that were similar to what it would sound like, but still like would incorporate themes of the film, and also like to be more flexible. And then we had to adjust it, of course, to what the young boy was capable of playing and whatnot and everything. And there's like a fun note, because we had a violin double who played perfectly, but he almost didn't show up in the film in the end.
Wow.
because Anton did it so well, so we could use all of his work. And that's kind of how we started to work on that. And also in the script, we wanted to incorporate this, also especially this musical aspect, to the whole scenery. So he would play without a violin, but on his arm or something, so to create kind of an interior world through the music of this boy.
It's very impressive. I would like to conclude with a question. When you show screenings of your film, what feeling do you hope that the audience leaves the room with? What impact do you as a creator hope to have on your audience?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's very complicated because we wanted to tell the story in a very multifaceted way, and not only, of course, this young boy is like an extreme hero in a way, and also like incredible, like how young he was and everything. But then on the other hand, I wanted to give an insight into like also like all universal conflicts in areas where war is and everything, and that was why it was important to me to kind of ask the question, what would you be able to sacrifice for your for revenge in the end, and what, and also like give like this insight also, because I always thought like revenge is something that creates a kind of spiral, and on the one hand it is like satisfaction that it brings to you, but on the other hand it will never make unhappen what happened, and this conflict and this topic was important to give a like feeling for the audience, and hopefully that's a little bit what they kind of get from it in the end.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Before we close off today's interview, Yulia, I'm also going to get back to you with this question, but Andreas, we would like to hear from you if you have any future projects in the works that you can kind of tell us about.
Sure. I mean, I'm working on several things at the same time sometimes, but I'm also trying to think, because I was talking to many people, and I was trying to think about working, because this film that I am showing here at the festival was initially planned as a long film, and actually not that much as a short film, and that's probably why it got like 30 minutes long. But I don't know. So we are also working on developing more of that story and giving more insight into the
Really
partisan movement. And yeah, now I was reading like original like diaries from the partisan leader and stuff like that. That's quite interesting.
So you're hoping on making that story into a full-length movie?
Yeah, kind of trying that at the moment. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Good luck. Good. I'd love to see it. Good luck. And Yulia, you working on anything now?
Yeah, well, I'm also a visual artist, so I just finished a residency at Art Piece, and I have a big show there going on right now. And it actually is about the war that's currently is going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm also, working on different things, at the same time. I don't really envision any narrative film in the future. In fact, I almost feel that I want to go to kind of the absurdist route in a way,
Wow.
and do something that is, doesn't have a linear story. So yeah, so right now I'm focusing more on having shows and making artwork, and yeah, I guess also the question about what the viewer will get out of watching the animation. I felt that what I wanted to do is give a voice to the children of Holocaust survivors, because I feel that they're very much overlooked because they're children and they didn't live through Holocaust, but they most often are also the victims, because there's just people who have been broken by the experience. They sometimes are not the healthiest parents. So that's what I wanted to do, and to kind of give voice to people maybe that don't usually talk. So yeah, so that was my kind of thinking behind this piece.
Wow. So yeah. Thank you very much, Yulia. Thank you very much, Andreas, for joining us on behalf of Gula Film Festival. We wish you guys and the rest of the creators good luck in the screening that's going to happen soon. And have a good evening. Continue creating.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. All right. See you guys.